Plenty of things to get to on this Sunday edition of the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Hope all of you out there have had a great weekend, and it's all wrapping up in a good way going into a brand new week on Monday. Here's everything that we're getting to on today's show. Latest San Francisco 49ers injury news, including updates on Ricky Pearsall, Yetur Gross-Matos, and Leonard Floyd. We have new updates on Brandon Aiyuk and Trent Williams with the NFL preseason over, and San Francisco looking ahead to Week 1 against a very talented and feisty New York Jets team. Going to discuss the Maliek Collins effect on the San Francisco 49ers defense. Limited sample size in the NFL preseason, but he could sneakily be a very important piece, especially along that defensive line. Fascinating case that is Isaac Guerendo. We'll discuss the 49ers' fourth-round pick and some really impressive things that he was able to do against the Raiders in the preseason finale. And yes, we're going to talk Trey Lance. 5 interceptions in the Cowboys preseason finale. I'm going to explain what's really been the biggest thing that has been a hindrance to Trey Lance to start his NFL career. Let's begin on the 49ers injury front. Defensive end Yetur Gross-Matos, who on that second drive went down and was grabbing at his leg. We found out later it was a knee injury. Knee sprain to be specific. He is going to be week to week. Could have been worse. Not an ACL. Week to week with that knee sprain. Kyle Shanahan hoping that Yetur Gross-Matos, who can kind of fulfill that Arden Key, Charles Omenihu role where he can play defensive end and defensive tackle, could be ready to play Week 1 against the New York Jets. Defensive end Leonard Floyd, knee sprain as well. Also went down on that second drive. He is day to day. New addition to the injury report. Linebacker Dee Winters, ankle injury. He is set to get an MRI tomorrow. And then wide receiver Ricky Pearsall, the first-round pick for San Francisco back in April's NFL draft, has that shoulder subluxation. He is going to practice tomorrow and rejoin the San Francisco 49ers. So positive news there, although shoulder injuries are very tricky. Some body weight on that shoulder. You could easily re-injure it. This is an issue that the Niners were aware about when he was at Florida, and they hoped that it wouldn't be a big deal. It's come back. They've said they are taking a cautious approach, which is what you always want to do, but I have long-term concerns about that shoulder injury. If he gets hurt one more time, and I talked about this last week, are we looking at him going on season-ending IR and having a redshirt year, especially with the emergence of fellow rookie Jacob Cowing? I would not rule that out. As for these Niners injuries along the defensive line, talked about this during the post-game show Instant Reaction late on Friday night. For those of you on the East Coast who hung out with us for that watch party and then tuned in to the post-game show, you're all real ones, no doubt. San Francisco's light as far as depth goes at defensive end. A lot of unproven players behind the starters, and in this case, their top 3 edge rushers. Nick Bosa, Leonard Floyd, Yetur Gross-Matos. After that, you're looking at the likes of Robert Beal. Going into year 2, don't really know what type of player he is. Alex Barrett, rotational piece for a few years for a reason. Jonathan Garvin, I thought, did okay in the preseason. He's a UFL guy, but hadn't done anything previously at the NFL level. So after Friday's game, when we learned that both Leonard Floyd and Yetur Gross-Matos had suffered knee sprains, that, of course, is a little bit of a concern because San Francisco doesn't have a lot of depth at defensive end. In fact, it's one of their thinner positions on the entire roster. Now, the good news here, Leonard Floyd, day-to-day. He should be ready for Week 1. He's been an Iron Man of sorts. He has played in 108 consecutive games, including the NFL playoffs. And then hopefully Yetur Gross-Matos, who I think could be a sneaky breakout candidate under defensive line coach Chris Kocurek. I really like the athleticism and the size that he has. I like that hybrid role that he could fulfill. Hopefully he's ready to go against New York. You're going to need to get a pass rush against Aaron Rodgers. If he has all night to carve you up, he will carve you up. I know he's coming off that torn Achilles. We'll see how the mobility is. But from the pocket, we've seen that he's been a magician. And the Jets have really bulked up and improved their offensive line. And they have some good skill position players. Breece Hall, really good running back. Garrett Wilson, really good wide receiver. So this Jets team is going to be a handful week 1 against San Francisco on Monday Night Football. I think it's close to a pick'em game, to be frank with you, just because the Niners are still without Brandon Aiyuk, still without Trent Williams. It's been a little bit of a weird offseason, and they've been so injured. Now, if they lose week 1, is that the end of the season? No. You still have the rest of the year to get things right with 16 games, but that week 1 game against New York is going to be a difficult one. And, of course, Ricky Pearsall, him coming back this week, as I noted, good for San Francisco, but we'll see if he re-injures that shoulder. It's a concern for me moving forward. This kind of takes us into the next portion of the show, the 49ers roster outlook and Niners roster news. So San Francisco made no roster moves today. A lot of teams have made roster moves following their final preseason games ahead of the Tuesday cut-down day, when all teams in the National Football League have to go from 90 players to 53. A lot of teams just get ahead of the ball. They start releasing players they know who are not going to be on their 53-man roster. It also allows you to release a player, and then you kind of monitor the waiver wire, and if there's a player out there let go by another team who you like, you're able to bring him in right away. The deadline is going to be 1 p.m. Pacific on Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern for all teams across the NFL to trim those rosters down. And this has to do with Trent Williams. So if Trent Williams reports before Tuesday, the 49ers will need to make 39 roster moves to get to the regular season limit of 53 players. Williams currently does not count against the 90-man roster because he's not on the reserve/did not report list. The 49ers also have a roster exemption for international player Isaac Guerendo, an offensive lineman. So he will be the 17th player on the team's practice squad. Now, Matt Maiocco reported, or I guess theorized, and keep in mind that he always has a very good temperature on the San Francisco 49ers. He does a tremendous job of covering this team and has a lot of connections inside that building. I saw he launched his own YouTube channel. Good luck to him on that endeavor. His roster projection already doing well, so good luck to him on the YouTube front. Welcome to the game. He had said on his show that he would expect Trent Williams and Brandon Aiyuk to both be present on Wednesday. Wednesday after Tuesday, significant because you cut down your rosters to 53 players. There are going to be more roster moves after that just because of injuries, players on IR, players on PUP, who's going to return, who's not, monitoring the waiver wire. But really after Tuesday, you have a good idea what, let's call it 95% of your football team is going to be. So, look, I see that from Maiocco, and I've been talking about this for a while here on the show. It is time to go for the San Francisco 49ers. You're looking ahead to week 1 against the New York Jets. I mentioned why I think that team is dangerous. They are legit. It's time to start getting things together, start planning for week 1 with your full semblance of players, especially in this case, star players in Trent Williams and Brandon Aiyuk. Best left tackle in the game and an all-pro wide receiver. You need to start figuring out, okay, are we going to have those players week 1? If not, we're going to have to game plan around that because we might not be able to run to the left side like we normally do, which has been a strength if Trent Williams is not playing. We might have to strategize how to run the football a little bit differently. Play action boots to that left side, the weak side for Brock Purdy so far in the preseason. He's come off that fake handoff, play action to the weak side. There has been a defender in his face on multiple occasions. That is the Trent Williams side. Do you roll things out to the right a little bit more? So your running game, your passing game is different without Trent Williams, which obviously brings us to Brandon Aiyuk, right? You got to know if you have Brandon Aiyuk in this game. This Niners offense, I know it's been a small sample size against the Raiders for a couple of possessions, and then obviously Brock Purdy didn't play alongside his normal collection of skill players against the New Orleans Saints. But look, I think that how the Niners offense has looked, it's become clear it's different with the true outside deep threat. When you have Brandon Aiyuk out there who can run every route, who can go deep, who can go across the middle, he demands so much attention out there because he's a big play waiting to happen. It just opens up everything else for Deebo Samuel out of the slot. That's his best position. The route that he ran on the Brock Purdy pick, a little bit sloppy. Now on that same play, Purdy forced it in there. Colton McKivitz got schooled. Pressure broke down. DB made a good play. And the Braden Willis penalty, the play before, made that go from a 3rd and 1 running situation to a 3rd and 6. But the point here is that we've kind of figured out that Deebo Samuel is not a number 1 outside wide receiver. Is he one of one as far as being a dynamic player who can impact the game in a variety of ways? No doubt. But this offense is different when you have Brandon Aiyuk as your true outside boundary wide receiver. So interesting for Matt Maiocco to say that. Trent Williams, Brandon Aiyuk expects them to both be present on Wednesday. You have Super Bowl aspirations, man. And you want to get the season off to a good start against a very good Jets team that is dangerous in the AFC and AFC East. You want your 2 studs on the field. Figure it out. As for an update on Trent Williams as well, additionally, 49ers and NFL News 24/7 did report this. The 49ers are to meet early this week with left tackle Trent Williams as they draw near to a reworked contract. Quote, "It's close, closest it's been in the final stage," a source said to 49ers Sports Talk on X. Have communicated with the person who runs that account. They've been on a lot of things as far as reporting happenings around the Niners. So take that for what it is on top of what Maiocco said. Couple more things to get to here on the show. If you haven't subscribed, do so right now. Niners Talk right here on YouTube that comes your way every single day in an informative, entertaining, insightful, thought-provoking manner that involves you, the faithful. The Maliek Collins effect. So I want to just spend a couple of moments talking about that. Maliek Collins is a very interesting player at defensive tackle who, if you didn't watch any of our offseason coverage or you're just tuning back into the Niners after that Super Bowl heartbreak, I get it. The Niners got rid of Arik Armstead. They wanted to shed salary. He didn't agree to a reworked and cheaper deal, and so they let him go. He signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars, got a lot of money from Jacksonville, and San Francisco traded, I think, a 7th-round pick, late-round draft compensation for Maliek Collins, a defensive tackle who, in the last 2 years, has been more available than Arik Armstead. He has been more productive than Arik Armstead. He's also been one of the better defensive tackles in getting after the quarterback, and he is a wide-bodied defensive tackle whose run game grades aren't phenomenal, but you figure that with a different type of defensive tackle as compared to Armstead, with that wide body, he can help out your run defense, which last year fell off a cliff, really struggled. And also, Maliek Collins is $10 million cheaper than Arik Armstead. So he has played a limited amount in the preseason, but there was a clip that I put on my X page from D-Line Vids of Maliek Collins getting double-teamed along the interior of the offensive line by the Raiders and pretty much throwing those offensive linemen to the left, shedding both of those blocks in a Hulk-like rip-off-my-shirt type of fashion, and then he tackled the ball carrier for a really impressive running play. Now, it's one play, but Maliek Collins has done a lot of that over the last couple of years. He's a very intriguing player, and the Niners remade their defensive line this offseason in hopes that they could be better against the run while still being a defensive line that can get after the quarterback and help out Nick Bosa, give him some help along that defensive line and trying to eat and get after the quarterback and push the pocket and dominate the trenches. And I think that Maliek Collins could have a huge impact on this football team. I'm very intrigued by the possibilities that he has and the skill set that he has to bring to this Niners team. So keep an eye out for Maliek Collins. Could be a really focal point of the Niners defense along that defensive line. Isaac Guerendo and then Trey Lance. So I talked about this in the post-game show Friday into Saturday, but 49ers 4th-round pick running back Isaac Guerendo, who the Niners traded up for, who had limited college production first at Wisconsin and then Louisville, didn't start a game until the final game of his college career, Louisville's bowl game, is an absolutely fascinating player because made a couple of stops, didn't start, thus didn't have a lot of production. But if you're just talking about athletic traits, Guerendo is just a fascinating prospect. And I had him going to the Niners in a couple of my mock drafts prior to April's NFL draft. And he was also held back by hamstring issues. And hamstring issues also reared their ugly head the first day of training camp practice, which then caused Isaac Guerendo to miss all of training camp, not play in the preseason until he returned to practice this past week. And we saw what he did on Friday night. 93-yard kickoff return, which in reality, if you count him crossing the field, he may have run 140 yards on that play. That's what he talked about after the game, where he had good vision, good patience to kind of let things develop. He was a track star in high school, and we saw it. I mean, he kind of starts about a quarter of the way to the far sideline and then kind of goes toward that sideline, then cuts it all the way back. Now, he was leaking oil at the end of that kick return, but keep in mind, he just returned to practice this past week, and he probably ran 140 yards. It was an impressive play. To see a player who is 6 feet tall, 220 pounds, who ran a 4.33 40-yard dash at the NFL Scouting Combine coming out of Louisville is freakish. And I know that a lot of you know that I talk about these relative athletic scores here on the show, where in the pre-draft process, Math Bomb relative athletic scores, it is a way to grade a prospect on an athletic scale from 0 to 10. It's not everything, it's something. Isaac Guerendo at 6 feet, 220 pounds, with more than a 40-inch vertical, short area quickness, long-term quickness, earned a 998 relative athletic score. Nearly perfect. He runs with juice, he runs with power, he runs with speed, decisiveness. He is a classic kind of one-cut Kyle Shanahan outside zone runner, where he gets the carry, lets something develop, sees a hole, hits the hole. And with the way that he can level up defenders, as we saw against the Raiders, with that speed, sometimes getting out to the perimeter, comfortable catching the ball out of the backfield, he could be a player in this league if he figures out those hamstring issues. And I'm excited to see what he can do as a rookie. I mean, the Niners have one of the deeper running back rooms in the NFL and one of the more talented, with Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason, Isaac Guerendo, and then we'll see who that fourth and or fifth running back is. I would move on from Elijah Mitchell. He's literally always hurt, but Kyle Shanahan loves him. You know, you have Patrick Taylor, you have Cody Schrader, you have Matt Breida, who I think could make this team. I still think he has some pop. It's going to be interesting to see how many running backs San Francisco holds on to and which running backs they hold on to with the fourth and or fifth spots on this Niners roster. Might only be able to go with 4 because you want to keep an extra linebacker, an extra corner, an extra offensive lineman, an extra wide receiver because you're deeper at those positions. Lastly, if you made it to the end of the show, I want you to give me a real one right now. Let's talk Trey Lance. I know he's not on this team, but it was a massive story for so long that involved the San Francisco 49ers, and it is a popular NFL conversation. And I talk about and cover the NFL for my job on a daily basis, and it's my job to inform you. Trey Lance played the entire game for the Dallas Cowboys yesterday in their preseason finale against the Los Angeles Chargers. I like what the Cowboys did. He is their number 3 quarterback behind Dak Prescott and Cooper Rush. He is young. He is inexperienced. He needs snaps. He needs reps. He needs live game experience. So Dallas gave him the entire game to continue his development, work on some deficiencies, shake off some rust, and just get playing time that he so much needs. And he throws 5 picks. Now, he had a couple of really good plays. He had this 40-plus yard run in which he got to the outside, and he had getaway speed where he made Chargers defenders look as though they were running in mud, and he blew right by them. An impressive athletic play and run from Trey Lance. He threw a little fade ball into the end zone, perfectly placed. But he also threw 5 picks, and I would say 3 or 4 of them were on him, and they were awful throws, awful decisions. He threw a pick 6 as part of that and tried to make a tackle on the linebacker and got bulldozed going into the end zone. Why has Trey Lance been a failed experiment so far? Why has Trey Lance struggled so much to start his NFL career? His lack of experience really hurt his development. He had 1 year of starting experience at North Dakota State, an FCS level school. The best FCS level school, but an FCS level school regardless. After his incredible year in 2019, in which he displayed so much arm talent and potential as a thrower, barely threw any interceptions, threw for a lot of touchdowns, and then ran for a lot of touchdowns and showed special dual threat ability. He played one game in 2020 because the COVID year absolutely screwed him. And it's ridiculous to think back that North Dakota State only played one game that year. And that one game and that season that he missed, that would have been critical for his development, now in 2024 is a big reason why Trey Lance is struggling so mightily. He's still a number 3 quarterback, and while he's done some really impressive things, he has made some mind-numbing mistakes. He simply just needs to play more football, and I'm not sure where he's going to get those reps. He entered the draft at 20 years old. He was so young and raw and was coming off a year in which he played one game in 2020. So look, I know we can talk about the Niners drafting or trading up to draft him, 3 first-round picks, taking him high, and then he never got meaningful snaps for San Francisco. Beat out year 1, and then in year 2, he got hurt. Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt. Brock Purdy came in. He's been slinging for the last year and a half. End of story. But that lack of experience and development for Trey Lance has just really crushed his development because it's unfortunate. I mean, you see the talent that he has, but where is he going to get the experience that he needs to improve as an NFL quarterback? Because he can't be a starter in this league given what we've seen so far. He's way too inconsistent with accuracy, with touch, with processing, just playing the quarterback position. Can he play in the UFL this offseason? Will the Cowboys let him do that because he's under contract? I know the Niners traded those first-round picks to move up to take Trey Lance, but they kind of fleeced the Dallas Cowboys in trading him away. Got rid of him, got rid of the drama. They have their guy in Brock Purdy, and they just flushed that mistake, and they moved on. And now it's kind of the Cowboys' problem, but he remains just a fascinating prospect, case study, and story. Wanted to talk about that as well. This has been the San Francisco 49ers Report. Hope you all enjoyed the show. About 23 minutes in. Wanted to talk some Niners on this Sunday. Back in the studio tomorrow. Catch you then. San Francisco. Let's go.